Assalamu alaikum, peace be with you. Thank you for joining me for this continuing discussion on the Quran in dialogue with other faiths and scriptures. Today, I want to talk to you about charity, how charity changes the character of the person giving charity. Have you ever heard someone say, give change to make change? Obviously, you're giving the change to make some sort of change, and it's usually external to yourself. It's to provide something, to build something, to fix something. You're giving change to make change. But what does that mean for you? Does it change you in any way? And what does it have anything to do with the giver? Well, if somebody says donate and feel great, well, then it's more towards the giver, right? You give and you feel good. Let's see what the scriptures say about charity and how it changes the person who is giving the charity. Okay, so the Quran. I'm going to open up to Surah At-Taghabun. It's called Mutual Loss and Gain in English. And I want to look at the 16th verse where it says, فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Be mindful of God as much as you're able. وَاسْمَعُوا وَأَطِيعُوا. And listen and obey. وَأَنْفِقُوا خَيْرًا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ. And give charity. That would be better for your souls. وَمَنْ يُوقَ شُحَّ نَفْسِهِ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And whoever is saved from the avarice of his own self, that person or those people are the successful ones. What is this shuhh? I've translated it avarice. It's like greed, the desire to have more, to keep one's wealth, and so on. And, not to spend it. It's hoarding. So this desire is there in the human self. And the Quran is saying here, whoever is saved from that sort of avarice, that is the person who will be successful. And how do you get over that? Listening to God, be mindful of God, listening, obeying, and also, importantly, spend in charity. That will be better for your souls. So there seems to be a connection then between giving in charity and the freeing of one's soul from this sort of avarice. In fact, in the Islamic faith, we understand that there are two designations for charity. One is the word zakat, and two is the word sadaqah. Now, the word sadaqah in Arabic corresponds to the Hebrew counterpart sadaqah, and they seem to mean the same thing, giving in charity. Now, zakat is a special category of charity that is designated by this name in the Islamic jurisprudence. The word occurs umpteen times in the Quran. The word itself seems to mean purification. In fact, it is used with this meaning in so many different contexts within the Quran. For example, in Surah Al-Kahf, the 18th chapter of the Quran, where Khidr accompanies Moses, or rather the other way around, Moses accompanies Khidr, and Khidr comes to a boy who is described as nafsan zakiyan. So it is a nafsan zakiyatan. It is a pure soul. The word zakat is from the same origin. It has roughly the same meaning of purification. So in terms of giving charity, how does purification apply? We know purification to be entailing like washing and so on. You're getting rid of dirt. Well, by giving charity, one way is that you are purifying your wealth. When we go about our daily living, we might have said something that's not exactly 100% true, and by means of this, we have earned some money. So by whatever means, if it so happens that some of our money has been earned by illegitimate means. Of course, if it's totally by illegitimate means, then of course we have no share in it. We have to give it all away. And that's not our regular charity. That's just like getting rid of something that's not ours, just like, dropping hot potato. If most of our wealth is like through normal means and legitimate activity, but it's tinged with something, and we may not have actually known about it. If we knew about it, we should take that portion right away and give it away in, not as our regular charity, but just to get rid of it. But now, let's say, now we're fine, we've earned our salary, we have our money, And from our perspective, yeah, it's all ours. We worked hard for it, but there may have been something that we're not quite aware of. By giving in charity, we're actually getting rid of that something. Okay, so God is going to count it in our favor that we have not really benefited from the illegitimately gained funds. So that's purifying the wealth. It also purifies us as the giver. Because, a person left to his or her own may not have given charity. Studies have shown that people who have faith tend to give more charity than people who do not believe in God. But people who do not believe in God are also good people, and many do also give charity. But on the whole, people who have belief in God feel more empowered to give charity because they have faith in God, that God will provide for them in the future. And if they give charity, God is going to give them even more in the future. In any case, out of the love of God, they want to give charity. When we give this charity, then we are breaking that impasse, that blockade that is there in the mind of the person that says, "This is my wealth. I'm going to keep it. I'm going to hold on to it." So that's the shuhh. That's the avarice that verse of the Quran spoke about. By giving in charity, we're breaking the ice, and now we are ready to give even more charity. So the zakat itself is called a purification because we are purifying our souls of that avarice. So yes, from the Quranic perspective, charity changes the giver. Okay, so let's look at the Bible and see what it has to say. In the Bible, we have in the book of Proverbs, whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord. That's in chapter 19, verse number 17. Now, if that means you're lending to the Lord, then it means that when you see the poor person and you're giving that money over into the hand of the poor person, you should think, okay, I am giving it into the hand of the Lord. And in that case, you have a close connection between you and the Lord being established. And that changes you when you feel that you have that such close connection with God. Now, let's look at Isaiah. In Isaiah, chapter 58 and verse number 10, we read this. If you offer your food to the hungry and satisfy the needs of the afflicted, then your light shall rise in the darkness and your gloom be like the noonday. What does it mean that your gloom will be like the noonday? It means that it will shine bright. So instead of having a gloomy composition or disposition, you will have a more cheerful countenance. And that is how the charity actually changes you, because it changes you for the better. It gets you out of that state of gloom and despair into a state of faith. You know that you've given in the way of God, and you know that you are now in close relationship with God, and God is going to look after you. God is going to take care of your problems and solve your difficulties. So here we have, naturally, the story of Jesus. And as we've seen in previous episodes, he is critical of the Pharisees. Here in chapter 11 of Luke's Gospel, in verse number 39, he says, "Now you Pharisees clean the outside of the cup and of the dish, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You fools! Did not the one who made the outside make the inside also? So give for alms those things that are within, and see, everything will be clean for you." What he's saying here to the Pharisees, he's using the cup as a kind of a symbol, but he's talking about outward and inner things. So they're giving outward things, but he's saying give the inner thing, give the things that are so cherished by you. Things that are more valuable, not the superficial items. And you are full of greed and wickedness. You're worried about, cleaning the cup and so on, because you want to avoid any impurities getting into you. But you already have impurities in you. What are the impurities? That's a greed and wickedness. And by giving in charity, you are actually going to clean your insides. You're going to get rid of that wickedness and that greed. So we find a confluence of ideas here between the Quran and the Bible, both asserting that when you give, you're actually purifying your soul. Now, we find this in other religions as well. In Hinduism, there is the concept of dana, which means to give in charity. And the idea is that when you give in charity, you are actually acquiring good karma, which will lead to your moksha, which is eventual liberation of the soul. This idea of giving voluntarily and is said to transform the individual. It has an impact on the person, making the person a better person. And the idea is translated even with the same word into Buddhism and in Jainism and in Sikhism. So we see that this is almost like a universal idea. It's there prevalent in many religions and cultures. The idea that by giving, you change yourself. And so the answer to our question, why do people give, is because, yes, when they donate, they feel great. When they give in charity, they feel that their character is changing for the better. Instead of being melancholy, they become happy. They feel contented and satisfied with God, rather than relying on their wealth and gloating over it and saying, gimme, gimme, as you know, gimme, gimme, never get. Don't you know your manners yet? Well, some people, even in adult life, there's just saying, gimme, gimme, and it's like they never get. But if we can break that avarice, that shuhh that the Quran used the word to describe, then we are in fact successful. We can go on having a happy life in this world and also eventually in the life hereafter. Now, there is a close connection between charity and fasting. And as Muslims are fasting during this month, and we ask, what does it mean for us today to give charity? Well, let's tie the two in together, as in so many verses of the Quran, and we find this close connection. For example, in Surah 33, we find the mention of giving charity and also fasting in the same verse. As we're in the month of Ramadan, especially now that we're preparing to enter the last 10 nights of the blessed month, let us give charity, especially at a time like this. It is an opportune time to give charity, to get close to God, and also to change our minds and character to be appropriate for the last 10 nights of the month of Ramadan. So thank you for joining me for this discussion on charity under the rubric of the Quran in dialogue with other faiths. Tomorrow, I will continue to discuss with you. And at that time, I will talk with you about pilgrimage and why pilgrimage is so popular as a practice in the world's religions. Join me for that tomorrow. And in the meantime, peace be with you and the mercy and blessings of God. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Muslim Media Hub. There's so much that happens in this building.
This is where we produce the television show called Let the Quran Speak.
And there are podcasts, shows, and documentaries in progress.
As you can see, this building is very essential for the good work that we're doing. This is why we purchased it for $2 million.
We've already paid off about a third of this building.
And we have another $84,000 to pay this year.
We're looking for 84 kind souls to give $1,000 each. Can you be one of those people?
I hope you will. Or give whatever you can. Every dollar counts.
Thank you, and may Allah bless you and your loved ones this Ramadan and always.
Peace be with you. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak.
Assalamu alaikum.